2 weeks ago, there was a scheduling conference in the Jared Leisek case. They set the preliminary hearing, and now I have a new updated timeline, more detailed and more thorough, so let's go over it. Hi everyone, Empowering True Crime Alex here. For those of you who don't know, Jared Leisek, who is the founder of Adventures with Purpose, or AWP, was charged last year in November with the R of a child. The child happened to be his cousin. Now, the incidents happened, actually, there were two charges. The incidents happened, according to the cousin, in 1992. And so there has been a lot of information coming out in this case and a lot of controversy also because of how people feel about both Jared Leisek and also how people feel about victims who are coming out on allegations of R and SA. So even though my channel strives to support victims' advocacy and justice, I still like to get the facts straight, and I like to present as much factual information as possible. So I have created a timeline. Some of you have already seen my last two that I did. I'm updating this. I actually got the legal docket with all the court records, and I updated my timeline with more information. In fact, I'm going to do another one where we just go over the docket, but that's a separate one because that's just going to be kind of tedious. But some people like that. So I'm going to do that as a separate video. For this one, I'm just going to stick to the court, mostly the court records, the important dates and motions that were made, and some background information as well. And for those of you who haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you join the empowering family. Let's be the voice for the voiceless, missing persons, survivors, and those who can't speak for themselves. All right, let's dive in. So we're going to go through the updated timeline in the Jared Leisek child R case. And I'll start with a little bit of background. So the victim is Jared Leisek's cousin. And she alleges that there were two R incidents in 1992. And it would have been on or about January 1st, 1992, on or about October 1st, 1992. One incident was at her home in, hopefully I say this correctly, Ephraim, Utah. And the other incident at a family member's home in Manatee, Utah. He would have been 16 or 17, while his cousin would have been 9 or 10 at the time. And in February of last year, 2022, there was an email exchange between Jared and his cousin, and this happened to be in the AWP email, where she says that he, and I'm not using the exact words here, but that he SA'd her, and he does not deny it. And on top of that, he blames family history of abuse and Mormonism. So this is in itself controversial because some people say he didn't admit to anything. Some people take this as an admission of his guilt. But the emails are out there. And so that's been, an important piece, many of us believe, in this case. Now, in August of last year, many of us remember the Kylie Rodney case. Kylie Rodney was a 16-year-old girl who went missing in the Truckee, California area. And AWP actually went to search for her car. And they discovered her car and her body inside the car in the Prosser Creek Reservoir. This case catapulted AWP into the mainstream media spotlight. And although Jared was not present at the search, it was Doug and Nick were the leads on that. Jared did participate in several online interviews after the discovery. And I include this because if Jared, had already, his YouTube channel already had millions of followers. But after this happened, it really catapulted him, I believe, to another level of, let's say, fame or celebrity, which is part of the reason why this case has reached mainstream media attention as well as other people, has just gotten more and more reach because of his celebrity, partially because of AWP's increase in mainstream media spotlight due to the Kylie Rodney case. So now we get into the case itself. So on November 3rd, 2022, there was an indictment and a summons issued to Jared for 2 counts of child art in Sanpete County, Utah. Over the next couple of days, the alleged victim, where I'll also refer to her either as cousin or as hero, and Jared's sister, Jessica Leisek, were interviewed on a few YouTube shows. The cousin said she became interested in pressing charges after seeing an online ad about abuse related to the Mormon Church. I believe it's the LSD, Church of Latter-day Saints, LDS, sorry about that. She repeatedly stated she only wants justice and isn't asking for money. That said, a couple of days later, Jessica Leisek created a $1 million GoFundMe. And she's saying that this was for legal fees and protection, both for her and for her cousin. So she made it the focus her cousin, but she also kind of put herself in that. And this in of itself, and I include this, even though this isn't like a legal thing, but I include this because this created a lot of controversy as well. And people are still using this as, they're kind of using this as motive for false allegations, which I don't believe, but I'm bringing this up because it's important. Many people still use this as a motive. So around that same time, November 5th or 6th, Exploring with Nug, which is one of the groups that was working with Jared to search for vehicles, he confirmed that Jared told him his official statement is the emails between him and his cousin. Another reason why it was important to bring up those emails, because, many people trust Exploring with Nug. He has a good reputation in the search and recovery community, and him saying that that's his official statement, many people believe that. Now, the other thing is that in his video, Exploring with Nug's video, he did say that he approached Jared with the feeling that, hey, is this fake? Are these false allegations? And so because he said the official statement was his emails, and because the emails don't seem to deny the essay that the cousin brings up, that's where you put 2 and 2 together and you're like, oh, so he's saying that he did it, right? And Exploring with Nug, that was his stance as well. So he actually severed ties with Jared at that point. So over the next couple of days, between the 7th and the 9th, the core AWP team resigned. That included Doug Bishop, Josh, Nick, Devin, and Carson. They were actually there during the Kylie Rodney case. And so many people, they kind of became prominent in their own right during that case. They all put out their own videos stating that they were resigning from the team. And you could tell by the way that they were saying it that they were probably still under some type of a non-disclosure or non-compete agreement, because they actually didn't actually say anything in those videos. They didn't give any specific details. They just were talking about not agreeing, and they just kept on saying things for like moral obligations. That's kind of like some of the reasons that they were giving, saying that they didn't know anything and they were resigning from moral obligations. That's kind of like the gist of what they were saying. And so that was, to me, a pretty big deal and pretty telling that all of these guys, because usually, just like Exploring with Nug, usually you come at it from, like protect your buddy. But in this case, they left, which of course is also used as people saying that they're traitors and all that. But I believe that that's actually fairly telling to me, because the default seems to be, stand by your man, right? Stand by the person. So I don't know. That's just my opinion there. Okay, let's move on. So on the 8th, November 8th, going back to the case, Jared puts a motion to appear by WebEx at his initial appearance. So remember, this is happening in Utah. He lives in Oregon. So all of this is out of state for him. And so he put in a motion to be able to appear remotely. And on the 9th, the initial appearance was scheduled by WebEx for November 30th. On November 11th, an Oregon sheriff personally serves Jared a summons to appear in court on November 30th. Remember, it's out of state. So they needed somebody locally in Oregon to serve the summons. Also on the 11th, Jessica, well, at least she stated this in her Facebook page. She said that the GoFundMe was shut down, and she says that she's returned the money. Also, I forgot to mention while I was recording that she only really raised like $60 or $70. I mean, it was really nominal, not anything significant at all. So I wanted to include that in here as well because I think it's an important detail since a lot of people use that GoFundMe as like proof again of motivation of her and the cousin lying. I just wanted to point that out there that was shut down. And as far as I am aware, there has been no other GoFundMe or other crowdsourcing asking for any type of money. In fact, the cousin came out after that and repeatedly kept on saying that, she wasn't asking for any money and she doesn't want any money. So the cousin reinforced that statement she had made a few days prior. Okay, so on the 14th, the summons that was given by the Oregon sheriff to Jared was returned. So they received the summons on the 14th. On the 17th, the attorney for Jared, Randall Richards, speaks out through the media and says that the allegations are false and that they have some evidence that the cousin is lying. So, it's pretty standard to say that your client is innocent or that the allegations are false. But I was curious to see what evidence that they had to say that the cousin is lying. So on the 30th, this was the initial appearance scheduled for Jared. He actually appeared in court. Many of us in the community were present. I was present. However, the judge ended up canceling court that day, including any other court cases that were on the docket that day, because there were attendees that were live streaming it, which was prohibited by the court. Also, people were disrupting the live WebEx, even though it was during breaks in between cases, people were being disruptive, and so they canceled court. So Jared's case was not seen and everything else was canceled. Now, this is what I find really interesting because there was a lot of buildup for that November 30th date. And once that was canceled and they were rescheduling a new date, the next day, this was December 1st, AWP posts a statement of where the AWP donations are going. And Jared seemed to go back to business as usual as his underwater searches started up again and with a new team. So I thought that was really interesting. That November 30th date was definitely crucial because it was almost like because that kept on getting pushed back, I feel like Jared, just took that as an opportunity for business as usual. Okay, so then on the 9th, December 9th, there was an initial appearance scheduled for December 12th, just a few days later. So on the 12th, December 12th, was his initial appearance. And remember, that was supposed to be on the 30th of November. So his initial appearance happened. There was a pretrial protective order was requested and granted. So that means no communication with his cousin. And I, after doing all this additional research, I'm going to do a separate video just on that. But so that pretrial protective order was requested. The court orders the defendant to be fingerprinted and booked by the end of December. So the court ordered Jared to be fingerprinted and booked by the end of December. And the defense attorney, Randall Richards, asked to file a motion and to seal that motion, which was granted. Now, that's, I believe, because of the nature of the accusations and him being a celebrity or a public figure. I think it's natural to want for an attorney to want to seal, and for the individuals themselves to want to seal the contents. So the next court hearing was set for December 23rd, and this was later rescheduled to January. So on December 12th, that same day, the defense attorney files the motion to dismiss the case, along with a memorandum of the motion to dismiss, which was sealed. So there's no access, at least not publicly, to that document. And then on the 19th, a pre-trial protective order was filed. So that means that that Jared can't have any contact, no communication with his cousin. And again, I'm going to go do another video where I just dive into that protective order, because I do find them fascinating, and I think it's really interesting to see what's included in this one in the state of Utah. Okay, so the court date that was scheduled for the 23rd was actually rescheduled on or to January 20th. So that motion went down on the 22nd. So instead of having the scheduling conference, they rescheduled it for January. Now remember that request by the judge to have the fingerprinting and the booking by the end of December? Well, it didn't happen by the end of December. It happened on January 5th. Jared was finally booked into jail and fingerprinted. Now, I make a note here because I read an article, which I'll also cover in another video, from Eric Butler, the prosecutor on this case at the time. He's since left the team, but he initially did not arrest Jared because Jared lives out of state of Utah and the incident occurred 30 years prior. So there wasn't, like, let's call it an urgency to arrest him because of those two details. Now, here's an important detail. On the 10th, on January 10th, they removed one count of child R due to it occurring in Nevada. And the note in record in the court docket says that the charge was deleted on January 11th. Now, this is important because the prosecutor stated that there was a miscommunication or confusion on where those two R incidents occurred. And they believe that it occurred in Utah, that both occurred in Utah, but then they got clarification that the second incident occurred in Nevada. And so that's why they removed one charge. So currently, there is only one charge of child R in this case. Okay, so on January 19th, the defense filed the objection to the state's objection to the defendant's motion to dismiss on due process grounds and statute of limitations grounds. And that was sealed on January 20th. So, okay, sorry, that was kind of a mouthful. So typically, before different court hearings, the defense and the prosecution file these like opinions or whatever their motions are, any objections that they have to the motions or whatever it is, they file those, and then the judge reviews them, and that typically helps the judge during make their ruling or whatever, or take that into account whenever they make the ruling or whenever they make a decision. And so this one was filed right before the scheduling conference, which was on the 20th. So on the 20th, the scheduling conference occurred, and a hearing date was set on March 8th to hear oral arguments on dismissing the case. So remember, there was a motion, the defense made a motion to dismiss the case. So they set the hearing to discuss the motion to dismiss the case for March 8th. The defense attorney, Richards, requests additional time to respond to Butler's objection and vice versa. And the court allows each party 1 week to file their responses. So by beginning of February 3rd, there were the reply memorandums to the objection to motion to dismiss, plus the motion to classify documents. So in this case, they're requesting to classify the documents for this case. And on February 6th, there was a file order on the motion to classify. So they agreed to classify documents in this case. Now, that doesn't include like the legal stuff, the stuff that I've been sharing and others have been sharing. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like the substantive documents that give more of the behind the scenes for this case. Those are the types of documents that are being classified. So March 8th rolls around and there was the court hearing to dismiss the case. I attended that and many others attended that as well. And the judge did deny the motion to dismiss. And so this was really interesting because the defense attorney gave 3 main points and the judge and both the prosecution and the judge shot those down, and the judge decided to deny the motion to dismiss. So I've seen different back and forth on the arguments that the defense attorney gave for the motion to dismiss, and I can kind of see both ways of what the attorney was trying to get at. But regardless, it wasn't relayed, we'll call it appropriately, or wasn't relayed sufficiently well to the judge to be able to dismiss the case. So the judge, and I'll go through this later, the judge actually put together a document sharing why she decided to deny the motion to dismiss. And because the case wasn't dismissed, a preliminary hearing was scheduled for April 5th. And on the 31st, Judge Mandy Larson filed an order on the motion to dismiss document that details the reasons why she denied the motion. So I'm going to link the videos for the motion, detailing the what happened in the motion to dismiss hearing, as well as I break down the document and the reasons why she denied the motion. Okay, so on the 5th was supposed to be the preliminary hearing with, this is what it says on the docket, with Judge Marvin Bagley. And it was canceled due to the stipulation of parties. And stipulation of parties just means an agreement between both parties, or between all the parties. And this was filed on March 28th. And instead of that date, the preliminary hearing was rescheduled to April 19th. So fast forward to April 18th, and there's a substitution of counsel. There's the new attorneys in this case for the defense for Jared are Kara Tangaro and Scott Williams. So he let go of his previous defense attorney and substituted counsel. Now, this happened on the 18th, which was one day before the preliminary hearing was scheduled. It'd be interesting to know whether or not the defense attorney, actually, the previous one, had actually prepared and had a case, or if if Jared Leisek had already told him that he was being let go, right? Because obviously, if you're supposed to go to court the next day, I wonder if he had his case prepared. So anyway, the new counsel was appointed, and the new attorneys filed a request for discovery, very typical. And also, because they're new attorneys, they want to know what the discovery is. So on the 18th, due to the substitution of counsel, there was an order continuing the preliminary hearing and setting the scheduling conference for May 3rd. So scrap the preliminary hearing, and instead they had a scheduling conference that would include the new attorneys for the defense and the prosecution, so that they can then set the next preliminary hearing. So on May 3rd, the scheduling conference occurred, and the defense attorney, Scott Williams, requested the matter be scheduled for a preliminary hearing, and the prosecutor, Kevin Daniels, agreed. And the preliminary hearing was set for July 10th. And Judge Larson stated that it will be in person with no WebEx. Now, here's something interesting. I did a recent video where we talked about what happened with the previous prosecuting attorney, Eric Butler. On May 3rd, Kevin Daniels, which is one of the prosecuting attorneys, there were three. Kevin Daniels is the lead prosecuting attorney. And then there's also Eric Butler and and Wes Mangum, who became the new prosecuting attorney here. So because Kevin Daniels was here, I wonder if Eric Butler had already left, or if it was just maybe like a scheduling conflict as well. Now, this was really interesting because I tried to, even though this scheduling conference was via WebEx, I could not enter. And everyone that I know that was following the case was not able to enter this WebEx as well. In fact, the WebEx even said that the meeting hadn't started yet. So I thought that was very strange. However, Jessica Leisek, who is the sister of Jared, said she was able to attend the meeting. So my theory is that either they received another link, or only those that were directly related to the case in some way were allowed to attend, and others weren't. We'll never know for sure, but that's my theory there. Okay, so in some date in May, and I'm not sure if it was before May 3rd or not, because I don't have a specific date, but I did email the court, and the legal assistant said that the prosecutor, Eric Butler, accepted a new job with the Utah Attorney General's office in May. And then I'm not sure when his last day working as a prosecutor is. So was it before May 3rd or around May 3rd, or was it after May 3rd? I'm not sure. But in May, he did accept a new job with the Utah Attorney General. So this is important because many people in my comments were saying that he was fired. So no, he was not fired. In fact, he got this other job as in the Utah Attorney General's office. So because I keep up to date with this case, 30 days before the event, before the preliminary hearing, I saw that it was scheduled for that date. So in June 12th, it appeared in the court calendars. Now, at some point, and this might be May or June, I'm not sure, the case was reassigned to the prosecutor, Wes Mangum. Exact date is unknown. And so he takes over the case. Now, there's no filing on any of this, so there's no specific filing saying that one prosecutor is off and another prosecutor is on, just like what would happen with the defense, with the defense attorneys. So the whole can of worms started when on July 3rd, by stipulation of the parties, the preliminary hearing that was set for July 10th was vacated. It was canceled. And according to Wes Mangum, he stated this in the scheduling conference later on, this was due to a prior conflict that he had in the date of the preliminary hearing. So according to him, he wasn't able to attend the July 10th date. Now that is because probably as a new attorney assigned to this case, there was a scheduling conflict that he had. So instead, they scheduled between the two parties, they agreed to a scheduling conference that same week, but on the 12th. So on July 12th, they were going to have a scheduling conference to set the date of the next preliminary hearing, or of the preliminary hearing. All right, so July 12th rolls around, which was 2 weeks ago, and the parties agreed. It was super quick, very, very short meeting, very short scheduling conference. In fact, it was open to the public, which they said that it was going to be in person. So one, it was open to the public, even though it said that it was going to be in person. And two, there were other people on the docket that day as well, just like in the initial hearing date. So, but once we got to this case, it was very quick. They agreed to an in-person preliminary hearing for September 11th. Now, the reason why it was pushed out a couple of months started with Kara Tangaro, the defense attorney, said that she had other scheduled hearings throughout August. And so she said she wasn't going to be available until September, and they agreed on this date. Now, between now and then, could this get rescheduled again? Possibly. We've seen it happen a few times already in this case. But for now, it's it was actually filed on the 17th. The notice of the preliminary hearing was scheduled for September 11th. And so I'll keep up on it. And usually what I do, I make a little note to myself 30 days prior. That might be on 8/11, or it might be 1 or 2 days before, depending on when it's put into the calendar. The preliminary hearing should show up in the court calendar. And then we will, if we're allowed to go, because we never know, if we're allowed to attend the preliminary hearing through WebEx, then I will definitely try my darndest to be there. So those are all the critical dates, filings, and important details so far in this case. Like I said, I am going to do a rundown of all the legal docket, all of the different filings. Way too much information for most people, or for many people, but some of you have requested it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it as an addendum to this video over the next couple of days, and as well as I'm going to do separate videos over the next few weeks, breaking down different key elements from this case that I really didn't do a deep dive in, but I find some really interesting points that I find interesting now. So I'm sure many of you will find interesting as well. So that's the update so far, the update on the timeline. And let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please keep them empowering. And if you like this video, if you learned something new, I'd appreciate if you hit the thumbs up to get this into the algorithm, more people seeing this video. As well, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you join the empowering family. Let's be the voice for the voiceless, missing persons, survivors, and others who can't speak for themselves. And with that, stay safe, stay thriving, always follow your intuition, and make sure to keep it empowering. All right, everyone, bye for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications. Thank you.